For 3 months, nobody could touch him. Not the woman who fed him every morning, not the neighbor who left water out in the heat, not the children who tried to approach him slowly, the way someone had probably told them to. He allowed proximity. He allowed nothing else. And then, one Tuesday evening in September, everything changed. Mia Hartwell had been feeding the stray Tuxedo cat outside her building since the first week of June. She had not planned to. She had noticed him sitting near the entrance one morning and left out a small bowl of dry food before work, mostly to stop thinking about him. He ate it. The next morning, he was there again. The bowl went out again. That was how it started. She never tried to touch him. She understood, without needing to be told, that he was not that kind of cat. He would eat while she watched. He would sit within a few feet of her and hold eye contact for longer than felt entirely comfortable. But the moment a hand moved toward him, he was gone. Not running, exactly, just no longer there. There 1 second, absent the next, with the particular efficiency of an animal that has learned to remove itself from situations before they become problems. She named him Oliver. She told herself it was just a name to use in her head. It was not just a name. Here's something most people don't know about tuxedo cats. Studies on feral and semi-feral cat behavior have consistently found that cats who have lived without human contact for extended periods don't lose the capacity for trust. They suspend it. The difference matters. A cat that has lost the ability to trust cannot be reached. A cat that has suspended it is waiting, without necessarily knowing it, for the specific conditions that will make trust feel safe again. Those conditions are different for every cat, and they are almost never what the human expects them to be. Oliver had been outside for at least a year before Mia noticed him. The building superintendent thought longer, 2 years maybe. Long enough that the other residents had stopped seeing him as a stray and started seeing him as a fixture, the black and white cat by the door, present, unresolved, not going anywhere. The superintendent had told her once, casually, that someone used to feed him years ago, a woman on the second floor who moved away. He had been on his own since then. Mia thought about that sometimes while she sat on the step, about what it meant to have had something and then not have it, about whether Oliver thought about it too. By August, Mia had developed a routine. Coffee at 6:15, bowl outside by 6:20. Oliver would appear within 4 minutes, always from the same direction, always pausing at the same distance before approaching the bowl. She started sitting on the front step while he ate. He tolerated this. Some mornings he would finish eating and then sit facing her for a while before leaving, not asking for anything, just sitting there with his yellow-green eyes and his unhurried expression, as though he had nowhere to be and was simply choosing to spend a few minutes near her. She mentioned Oliver to a friend once, without meaning to. Her friend said, "It sounds like you have a cat." Mia said, "He's not mine." Her friend said, "That's not what I asked." She did not try to touch him. She kept her hands in her lap, and she waited, and she let him decide what the mornings were. She had not set out to earn his trust. She had set out to feed a stray cat and stop worrying about him. But somewhere in those 3 months of mornings, something had shifted in her without her noticing. She had started waking up looking forward to 6:15. She had started coming home a different route that passed the front of the building rather than the side. She had started, without making a decision about it, arranging her mornings around a cat who hadn't decided yet whether she was worth the risk. I see you're still watching but haven't subscribed yet. Honestly, that stings a little. Hit subscribe. You'll want to see what comes next. On the 14th of September, a Tuesday, Mia came home from work later than usual. It was past 7. The light had already shifted to that particular evening quality, warm and slightly low, the kind that makes ordinary things look different. Oliver was on the front step when she arrived. Not near the door, on the step, directly in front of it, as though he had been waiting. She sat down beside him, not in front of him, beside him, leaving space the way she always did. She put her bag down. She didn't say anything. For a few minutes, nothing happened. Oliver looked at the street. Mia looked at the street. The city made its usual sounds around them. Then Oliver turned his head and looked at her for a long moment. And then he walked the 3 steps between them, lowered his head, and pressed it into her hand. She didn't move. She'd barely breathed. After a moment, she let her fingers close gently around the top of his head, and he pushed back against them, and she felt the low vibration of purring start somewhere in his chest. They sat on the front step together until the light was fully gone. She thought afterward about what she would have told herself 3 months earlier, back in June, that one day she would sit on a step in the dark with a stray cat's head in her hand and feel completely that this was where she was supposed to be. She wasn't sure if past her would have believed it. Mia had spent 3 months learning not to reach for him. She had never considered that he might reach for her instead. What she had not expected in any of this was what the waiting would do to her. She had assumed patience was neutral, something you deployed and then retrieved unchanged. But 3 months of mornings on that step, hands in her lap, not asking for anything, had changed something in how she moved through the rest of her days too. She had gotten quieter, more willing to let things arrive on their own schedule, less insistent on outcomes. She was not sure whether Oliver had taught her that, or whether she had simply finally learned it and he happened to be there. Oliver came inside for the first time 2 weeks later. Not invited, not carried. He simply walked in behind her one evening and went directly to the window with the best view of the street, sat down and began to wash his face. He has been there most evenings since. He still spends time outside. He still has his own schedule, his own routes, his own hours that belong entirely to him. But he comes back. Every time he comes back. He sleeps on the left side of the bed now, pressed against her legs, purring with the steady certainty of a cat who has made a decision and has no intention of revisiting it. She still sits on the front steps sometimes on quiet evenings. Oliver joins her. They watch the street the way they did before anything between them had been settled. Except now, when she reaches out, he leans into her hand. And that, it turns out, was all she had ever been waiting for. Some animals don't come to you. They arrive when they are ready. And the only thing you can do is be there, without pressure, without expectation, until one evening the distance between you closes, and you understand that it was never really distance at all. It was just time. Is patience the same as love, or is it something even deeper? Tell me in the comments.